Fasting is a spiritual practice that is very common. It's actually been in the Judeo-Christian traditions for thousands of years. So it's a very common and normal part of many spiritual practices. In fact, back in 2014, it's kind of this time of year, back in 2014, 2015, there were myself and a couple other intercessors and friends, and we all kind of decided that we were going to do a 40-day fast. So we were going to start the year with a 40-day fast. Now, I had never gone probably more than about 7 or 10 days fasting, which is a long time. So 40 days was quite a big deal, but we just really felt like the things that were happening, particularly in the church and in our lives, we wanted to take that time and just really pray and press into God. We had some sort of spiritual warfare stuff that we wanted to do and see some things broken off. And so we started this 40-day fast. In that time, as I say, the idea originally was that we would be praying for the church. But as those 40 days progressed, God just started to really speak to me. And he had kind of a different plan for how he wanted to use this 40 days that I had set aside for him. And for me, it was one of those things where he really spoke into my identity and his love for me. And so I came in with one agenda, and then God finished it with a totally different agenda. And that was life transforming for me. God really spoke into an area of my heart and my thinking that I needed to hear from him. And so fasting can be so incredibly powerful. If you've not done it, I encourage you to give it a go. You know, biblically, fasting is a willing abstinence from food. When you read the Bible passages and you see different folks fasting, and they had lots of different reasons they fasted, it almost inevitably was always about food. The idea is to find those things that take our attention and sacrifice them so that we can give God our attention. It's meant to, as we fast, it's meant to actually increase our spiritual hunger. This is why fasting from food is good, because our body becomes hungry, and in that hunger, it reminds us that we have a spiritual hunger, that we need to hunger for God. On my fridge at home, my wife's actually put up this little quote. It says, "We hunger for the things that we feed on." And I thought that's kind of an interesting quote. We hunger for the things that we feed on. It's a way of saying, I'm not going to be enslaved by the things of this world. But I'm not going to be enslaved by food. I'm not going to be enslaved by other things that are distractions. But the only source of my satisfaction is Jesus. So let me ask you a question. How much are you feeding on the bread of life? Jesus called himself the bread of life. I want you to ask yourself, how much are you actually feeding on and finding your satisfaction in the bread of life? You know, are you reliant on Jesus for your sustenance? Are you turning elsewhere? Because there's a lot of options. There's lots of options out there to turn to that says, come and do this, come and be this, come and participate in this. It will be fulfilling. But is it really? So I want you to just take a moment and reflect. Where do you find your sustenance? What have you been feeding on? And has it satisfied you? You know, Jesus is the only one who satisfies our spiritual hunger.